If you ever watch a game of football, a game of rugby, you see the players running around holding this little ball and holding it so tightly, making sure that they don't drop the ball. We've all watched the game where we're sitting at the edge of our seat and the players are passing the ball around, catching it, and one makes a dash for it, makes a break, and then he's running. And as he runs, he fumbles or somebody hits him and he drops the ball. And how disappointed are we? We say, we can't believe it. How could he drop the ball? Or, when he gets up to play the ball, they drop the ball. And we're we get a little bit mad as to, how could you do that? Well, we have an expectation that from professional players, they have practiced and trained and they know the importance of holding on to that ball, don't we? We know that that's part of the game. They're the rules of the game, and they must learn to maintain and hold on to it. And this is the point that Paul is making to Timothy as to how he is to lay hold, and that is to hold on to this eternal life that God had given him, and we ought to contend for it, and how he is to strive and contend in that present time. Timothy was in Ephesus. He was there at that church. And, Ephesus was a very affluent society. People who had great wealth and people who were wealthy were getting saved and coming to church. But, the love of the world and worldliness began to make its way into the church. So Paul here instructs Timothy as to how to have true riches. The riches are not things that we find in this world, but they are really eternal when we lay hold onto eternal life. Paul stirs Timothy there and warns him, gives him several warnings, which we'll discuss later, but he gives him warnings about heresies, things that were not right, people that were spreading different doctrines and divisiveness, people who had been divisive, who were argumentative and being divisive in their nature, and also those who were materially greedy. They thought that eternal life and thought that gain, that material gain was a sign of godliness. They thought that, if they were prosperous and had much, then that is, their spirituality. But Paul writes to change and to correct that error. He says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. I believe that to be so true. Godliness is what we ought to possess in our life, and to esteem it far greater than any possession we have here in this world.